The year, 1976. I was a junior in high school. In the world, all kinds of things were happening. Jimmy Carter became our president. New TV shows that debuted. We had The Muppet Show. We had Family Feud. And who could forget? Donnie and Marie. Okay, first up, Boston. The debut album by Boston hit big in 1976. But that wasn't an immediate overnight success. You see, the band started putting together stuff, and the song Foreplay, for example, was completed in 1969. In 1974, the band was shopping demos with More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, Rock and Roll Band as the demo, but nobody would hit. They couldn't get signed for anything. Then all of a sudden, they got signed, and boom! The album sold 17 million copies and ended up number 3 on the Billboard Top 100. The album is just amazing, and it surprised me because I hadn't listened to this album for quite a while. So for this, I got it out and I listened to it, and what an album. Next up on our flashback to 1976 is Peter Frampton, Frampton Comes Alive. This album was a 2-record set recorded live at Philadelphia, New York, but mostly in the Bay Area. The album sold over 8 million copies. They released 3 singles from this album: Show Me the Way, Baby I Love Your Way, and Do You Feel Like We Do. All the singles reached within the top 15. The album hit number 1, and it stayed there for 10 straight weeks. This is the kind of album that you could put on at a party, and it would just float behind you, and you would hear bits and pieces of it, and it would make you smile. 2 things became associated immediately with this album. The voice box. Wow, incredible, right? And the second thing was Peter Frampton's hair. Moving on from the voice box of Peter Frampton, we move on to the cowbell of Blue Oyster Cult, the album Agent of Fortune. Now, this album, when it came out, was kind of a surprise. You see, the album previous to this one was called On Your Feet or On Your Knees. It was a multiple disc live album. And that album contained some of the most insane dueling lead guitars. They even had a guy who played what they called the stun guitar. The album was made to be played at maximum volume. And as a teenager, I did. And to this day, I blame it for losing my hearing. Now, this album is much more melodic. Also, I played it too loud, but it's much more melodic and more civilized. It had horns, keyboards, guest singers, and of course, cowbells. This album sold over 1 million copies and peaked at number 29 on the Billboard Top 100. The single, Don't Fear the Reaper, actually went on to number 12 and has now become a staple across all kinds of classic rock radio. All right, that brings us to our 4th and final album from 1976, AC/DC High Voltage. One of my favorites of not only 1976, but of all times. AC/DC was a complete shock to America when it was introduced in 1976. You see, the album actually had been partially released in Australia in 1975, but the worldwide distribution of AC/DC changed rock and roll forever in 1976. We were introduced to Angus Young on lead guitar, jumping around in his schoolboy outfit, and Bon Scott blasting out vocals like only he can. So this concludes our 4 records from 1976 special today. Hope you liked it. If we missed something that you consider one of the most important albums of 1976 or one of your favorites, please list it down below. What I'd like to do is get enough suggestions that we could go ahead and do a part 2.